Pete Iorizzo is the sports editor and the columnist for the Times-Union, and he joins us every Monday morning reacting to his column in the Sunday paper and the headline coming off the weekend game, the championship game on Saturday in Burlington. UAlbany coach, teammates support Nichols after defeat. And having said that, let's welcome Pete Iorizzo to our show here on Big Board Sports. Good morning, Pete.
Hey, Roger. How are you?
Doing well. Survived another weekend, wild and crazy, and now we'll see what this week brings with the UAlbany women somewhere on the road, and the UAlbany men still playing, and now the CIT St. Peter's on Thursday night. But before we get to that, let's talk about Nichols, because I was in the post game with you and Tim Wilkin and everybody else, and Nichols really blamed himself on what happened down the stretch in that game and the fact that he put up a lot of shots. But somewhere as he was blaming himself, the head coach, Will Brown, interrupted and pretty much stuck up for his player. And I guess the teammates did the same thing. And that was your take in the column.
Yeah, I think you were in there too and saw it was a pretty interesting and powerful, I guess you could say, exchange there with Nichols up on the podium. And the question he was asked was if he thought he tried to do too much, which is a perfectly reasonable question. And he basically said yes and really pinned a lot of the loss on himself, which probably went a little bit too far. UAlbany didn't just lose the game because David Nichols tried to do too much. And, like you said, Will Brown jumped right in and said, no, we didn't just lose this game because of David Nichols. And the two other guys up on the podium, including Joe Cremo, absolutely agreed with him.
And you live and learn, because you go back and you look at that shot that Nichols took, had a little bit more time, could have probably had at least another dribble to get a little closer to a shot that he's more than capable of making, and he's made a lot of those deep threes from the top of the key. And he also had, if he would have looked, again, time running out, hindsight is what it is. You take a little bit more time, a little bit more composure, and look, you did have a couple of guys open, and one of them was Joe Cremo.
Yeah, I don't think UAlbany has any problem with David Nichols taking the big shot. I mean, that's there's not a lot of other guys, with maybe Cremo being the only other guy you'd want taking the shot in that situation. But I think you're right. If you had that to do over again, Nichols had a little bit more time there than maybe he thought he did. I don't know. Maybe he thought the clock was running down a little bit faster than it actually was. But he did have some time. If like you said, take another dribble, take another step closer. I couldn't see, and I haven't seen a replay. Was Cremo open on that play too on the wing?
Yeah, I think he did have Joe open, but again, time running out. Will, I know, said this morning to me, and we'll have Will Brown on at 11, that he did contemplate calling a timeout in that spot, but didn't, because he didn't want Vermont to set its defense, and they may get a better look and a better shot without him calling a timeout, because Vermont is so good defensively. Yeah, and everything was kind of helter-skelter there for a minute, too, because he was just coming off the turnover. I could see why Will didn't call timeout there, because if the play had unfolded as UAlbany would have wanted it to, Nichols or Cremo, if he was open, either one of them is probably going to get a better look there in transition and in the chaos than if he called timeout. Tries to draw up something against the Vermont defense that's completely set. So, I would probably agree that calling timeout there wouldn't have necessarily helped.
Pete, earlier in the hour, Roger and I were talking back and forth, and as we did at Siena season ends, we do it this morning with Albany. We say, hey, how do you grade out this season? And I don't think this is being an Albany apologist. I said I think I would give it an A-, because they graduated 70% of their offense. They came back. They won 20-plus games. They're in the title game on the road in what I thought was an instant classic game. Do you co-sign that grade from my standpoint?
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. I think what makes it, if you're a player or a coach with UAlbany, what makes it tough to swallow is, with all that said, it's tough to get around the fact that you're 9 minutes away from going to the NCAA tournament, and you had it and let it get away. And I think it's going to take a while before they're able to come around to sugarcoating that because, as you know, in a one-bid league, it's really hard to get to the NCAA tournament. And, even though the program's been there 5 times, I think they're always going to look back at this one as boy, number 6 was one we just let slip right through our fingers. We had the game, we're up by 9 and we made one basket in the last 8 minutes and 45 seconds. I think that overall you're right. They probably accomplished more this year than a lot of people thought they would, but I still think that it's tough to soften the blow from letting one get away.
I think there's no question it stings. I mean, when you're up like that on the road, you got to figure out a way to close it out, and unfortunately, UAlbany just couldn't do it. You give Vermont credit, because as Will Brown said in the postgame, I mean, this Vermont team is just rock solid. They are so good this year, and we knew that. Now they have a 21-game winning streak. At the end of the day, the better team probably won this game.
Yeah, I think that's true. I mean, you certainly can't take anything away from Vermont. It was going to be tough to score in those last 9 minutes because Vermont's a really good defensive team. And, as you watch those last 9 minutes of the game unfold, too, I mean, it wasn't like it was a collapse where Albany threw the ball all over the gym. They just, against a good defense, they just couldn't score. It just seemed like every possession they were down under 10 seconds on the shot clock and scrambling to get a decent look at the basket, and you do that over the course of 5, 6, 7 possessions, and before you know it, the 9-point lead is all gone.
Yep, chances to win. Now they'll move on. They'll play in the CIT. How do you feel about that? Are you a fan of these postseason tournaments after you don't win your conference tournament? You're not going to the NCAA, and you see a lot of teams trying to keep the season alive, wear the uniform one more time, give the younger players a chance, the Cremos and the Nichols of the world, a couple of more games under the belt. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think how you feel about it probably depends on who you are. I mean, if you're just a fan, I think you're probably not all that interested. You want your team to play in the NCAA tournament. If you're a player or a coach, if you have a young team like Albany, then I completely understand why you'd want to play in one of these events and get some more practices in and get a few more games. So I totally understand why it makes sense for the team, but what the fan interest is, I'm just not sure. I think it's probably pretty minimal.
I think they'll try their best to get a big crowd at CEFCU Arena on Thursday, but I think you're right. It probably is an uphill climb at this point. But for the players and for the coach, I'm not surprised that they've taken this next move to continue their season. Pete, always a pleasure on Monday, man. Nice column, good stuff in Vermont, and now we'll follow. I guess the UAlbany women will know tonight where they're going.
That's right. Safe. Are you headed on the road with them?
Pretty sure that'll be the deal, and who knows where. But yeah, later in the week I will most likely be traveling somewhere.
Good. Well, safe travels to wherever that may be.
Thank you, Pete. Appreciate a few minutes. Thank you, bud.
Okay. Thanks, guys.